Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tech with Ty video and podcast edition. I think this is our third one now. Number 3.
Lucky number 3.
Yeah, third time's the charm. We'll see.
I think we did actually record the first one twice, though, because something happened.
We did. Did we? Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
I think I didn't hit record. Whoops.
That was the second time, actually. The second time we had to do it twice.
I don't know. So this week in Tech with Ty, on the technology section, I talked about Plod Note, which is actually in my pocket now, and I want to record with it again. I've been using this thing like crazy. So
did you use it in the car?
I
did. The one you did? Okay.
So this week's Tech with Ty actually recorded the entire kind of premise and the ideas behind what we wrote about using this. And then I took the transcription and plugged that into ChatGPT, which cut my writing time down from like usually over an hour for the 3 sections that I cover, technology, education, and coaching. And just having the verbal diarrhea of my ideas on here and then putting them into ChatGPT to rewrite it as if it were me worked out really, really well.
Honestly, I couldn't really tell the difference because I usually reread, like he'll reread my stuff and I'll reread yours, and I couldn't really tell the difference between it.
Yeah, I still had to go in and change some things, and actually I haven't even told you this yet, but yesterday on the video, the Twitter video,
yeah,
when you removed it and you put it back in, it actually repeated the section twice.
Oh, it did?
Yes.
Oh,
so I had somebody say, hey, I think I could tell a difference because I saw a repeat. And I was like, that was actually a human error, not AI. So It's all good. So yeah, I love this thing. It has cut down production time of Tech with Ty to more manageable. And we're on week 45 next week, which is absolutely
We need something
insane.
for week 50. It's going to be the week after Christmas.
It's going to be a giveaway.
I'm pretty sure. It's going to be a giveaway, but we don't know what giveaway yet. I don't know.
It will be cool, I promise. I have an idea.
Okay.
Next up, I talked about the Meta Quest 3, which is the headset that they have. I have a 2, which is primarily for like my kids to play games on. But the 3 has like 3 cameras, it looks like, in the front. And I had a buddy of mine send a video of a walkthrough, like somebody using a Meta Quest, because it is not only virtual reality, but it's augmented reality because it uses the front-facing cameras to show you the room. And you could set up virtual monitors all over the place. Like you have as many as you want, or you could have a giant movie screen.
So you say virtual monitors. So what do the virtual monitors do? So
you could basically sit at your desk with your regular monitor, as well as have a plethora of other virtual monitors with other windows open.
That's cool. I see a lot of men do that during football, like Sunday night football.
Oh yeah.
They'll have like 6 different like TVs up, watching it all.
So basically does that, but through augmented reality, which I thought was really cool. And he's got a really cool desktop setup anyway. Like he's got a 40 or 50-inch monitor in the middle as kind of like his main screen.
Right.
And then he has like 6 others showing stock screens and everything else. So
ultimate multitasking.
Yeah, it's just really cool that you can now do that virtually for relatively cheap. I think you can get a Meta Quest 3 for like $500 or $600, if not less.
Yeah.
So I did say that I would ridicule you if I walk in the office and see you wearing that, though. Like, absolutely.
Well, because it looks weird, doesn't it? It's like,
oh, yeah, it's big and bulky and looks stupid.
I mean, if you were alone in the office, I definitely couldn't, because you can't see, my office is all glass, so everyone would see me wearing it. But
yeah, if you could see this glass, hers is the exact same.
Yeah, it would be very embarrassing, I think.
Yeah.
Which might be part of the reason people might not use it.
Well, and we talked about the Apple headset, which basically does the exact same thing. This just does it for
that one was
a fifth of the price.
Right.
So
that's true.
Yeah, it's definitely for nerds. It's for home officers. Don't wear them into the regular office.
And you can, but it'll be made fun of.
And then I talked about custom GPTs, which basically allows you to create your own chat GPT that will do whatever you want it to. So you could have it set up to create memes or GIFs, and you could say, hey, create a funny meme, and you can do this on a daily basis, and you can share it with other people that have GPT-4, which I heard that this week they shut down new invites because it was so backed up with people creating custom GPTs.
Really?
That they had
to shut the whole thing
down.
down.
It has definitely been running slower. So I tried it for a couple things. I wanted to see for our AI emails that we send out if I could create one for that, but it's just not there yet for me. I actually had better results because I was like, oh, this would be perfect to create one for Tech with Ty. So then I put my transcription in, and it already knows that it's going to be a transcription every time, and it will spit out the results that I'm looking for. And when I did that, it didn't follow directions, which I've had a problem with, because I always say, don't give a greeting or a salutation, and it does every time. hey there, readers.
Well, that's what gives it away, I think, because every single time, because we do AI emails too, every single week, and every single week when I type it in, it'll say something super corny as the introduction, and every time I delete it because it just gives it away that it's AI.
Yeah.
I don't know why it does it. It's so corny every time.
Well, I reprimand it.
Yep.
I tell it I'm never going to use you again if you don't stop doing this, and it
What
still
does it say back?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say anything. So moving on to education. Last week I was at RE/MAX PBS, which is the Premier Broker Summit out in Sonoma. Had an absolutely amazing time. That is my favorite event of the year because I get to network with the top brokers in the country. And I've got, when we talk about finding your tribe in last week's Tech with Ty, this is my tribe. It is 100% my go-to event, getting to learn from all my peers. And the cool thing was Brian Buffini came out. He typically does not do any events outside of his own, but he did come and he said, this is because you guys are the most powerful group in the real estate industry. And I do believe that. But he talked about, hey, is there an impending crash in the real estate market? I actually had an agent ask me that, like, hey, should we re-up with our CDPE or get more involved with foreclosures because it's coming. There's going to be a wave of foreclosures. But actually he showed the chart and I showed the pictures that I took of the chart. That 39% of homeowners in the US actually have have 100% equity in their home, meaning they own it free and clear. And then it was like another 19 or 20% that had over 50% equity. So 60% of homeowners have more than 50% equity in their home. We're not going to see this giant wave of foreclosures that we saw in 2008, 2009.
Well, I think that's the issue, especially with like social media. Obviously, people are going to use clickbaity titles saying like new 2008 coming or big crash coming or something like that.
The bubble.
The big bubble, yeah. And it works, it gets views, but it also makes realtors think that that's going to be coming when that's not really the case.
Yeah, well, even consumers, they see a headline, they don't even necessarily click the article. So I don't think that's going to happen. We anticipate nearly 5 million homes being sold next year. He predicted and said he has bet 10 million plus of his own money on the fact that rates are going to go down to
5%.
5% by 2025, 5.5% next year. So we'll throw those slides up on the screen as well so you can see them. But yeah, I think next year is going to be a positive outlook for the real estate industry. But it leads to other problems that we've had over the last couple of years, which is increased demand because people that have a 3% mortgage aren't necessarily willing to jump to an 8%. But if it's 5 or 6 and they have all this equity built up in their home, they can swallow that. They can buy down their rate a little bit. And I talked about a post that I've seen going on recently where people are advising their clients to take the rate down, buy down money as opposed to $10,000 off the purchase price. And I just said, that's not for everybody. I actually had a long conversation with Rob Wolf about it because if they do refinance in a year, you're never getting back that $10,000 equity that you could have had off of the sale price. Whereas the rate buy down could only be temporary. So keep that in mind. And I said, instead of doing that, bring on your Rob and do a video with him explaining to consumers the difference of what that looks like, because everybody's scenario is going to be different. If they're PCSing or leaving the area in 2 years, that may be the payback period. So they need that extra $10,000 in equity off the purchase price as opposed to taking it and buying down the rate. So,
and honestly, usually our Rob videos perform the best because it's the most impactful to people watching. Like they want to know this information.
Absolutely.
So if you do film a video like that, it'll probably get more views than your typical video.
Yeah.
At least ours do. So
yeah, people want to know, hey, how's it going to affect my payment? Because at the end of the day, that's what people care about. Next up, we had coaching, and the big takeaway from PBS again was it's not a priority. And so instead of saying I don't have time to do something, rephrase it to it's not a priority. So if it's, hey, I don't have time to learn this new tech tool or this CRM or whatever it is, say it's not a priority and see how that feels. Because I think it's much more impactful when you say, hey, I didn't have time to reach out to 10 people in my sphere today. Just say it's not a priority. It's not a priority for me to reach out to my past clients and see how that feels. It's a significant difference.
Well, it's less of an excuse, I feel like, and more of owning up to the fact that you didn't make it a priority.
Yeah.
It sounds less like an excuse and more like you're actually owning up to the fact that I don't really care enough to do this.
I think I didn't have time is an excuse, as opposed to we make time for things that are a priority in our lives, whether it's, kids sports or, browsing social media. So
that's true. Yeah.
I ran through this exercise with my oldest the other day because he was sitting in front of the TV trying to do a study for a test. And I go, hey man, this is not working. Like, you can't do that. And he said, oh no, I absolutely can. And I said, okay, we're gonna do a quick little test on multitasking. And I said, write out the alphabet, but I want you to go A, and then below it, on the line below it, write down 1. So you go A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, and you go through the entire alphabet, so you 1 through 26.
While watching TV.
I don't care if he's watching TV or not. Just that exercise, I timed him, and then I said, okay, now write the entire alphabet, and then write the numbers 1 through 26. You cut the time in half when you do that.
Oh,
it's such a silly thing, but it's how your brain works to go A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, as opposed to going A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So when you talk about multitasking and going back and forth between social media and the things that are a priority to you that generate revenue for your business, focus on those things that are going to generate you revenue. And then you had a really cool section on how-to this week because you finally found a podcast
that I actually enjoy, and I really like the girl. I think her name's Camille Moore or something like that. But it's called Marketing Insights by Third Eye. Well, no, it's called. Let me double check here. Third Eye Insights, and Camille Moore leads the podcast on it. And she's around my age, so obviously I can relate to her more. But I highly recommend their podcast, and their podcasts are actually only like under 10 minutes, which I also like. So I'll like pop my headphones in. It's very short, which I really enjoy. And I feel like at least in my workspace, like not working here, but like the field in general, we always see ads like talking about like, pay $15 and you can get 100,000 views in 1 month. Like, it's just always very unrealistic expectations. And their videos are always honing in on the fact like, hey, this is not true some of the time, but here's X, Y, and Z and how to actually do this.
But you also talked about like, hey, don't post just for the sake of posting every day.
Yeah, and they weren't really like crapping on Gary Vee, but they were bringing up a valid point that I think should be talked about too. Like, don't just, obviously we want you to post stuff to get practice. Like, it's always good to post stuff and get practice, especially if you're scared to post or you're not doing anything at all. Like, of course you should be posting every single day, but once you have that consistency, don't necessarily just keep throwing crap at the wall to see if it sticks, because that could be the very first impression that you have on a client or another individual.
Yeah. No, and I think Gary Vee, I think they probably agree with him. Like, you're supposed to post way more often than you think, but it's also supposed to be value-based. So don't just throw up crap content because you're going to get crap results. So we're talking about Gary Vee.
And I think that they were agreeing to disagree in a way. Like, they were saying like, hey, what he's saying is correct, but don't just keep posting crap and expecting it to perform super well if you're not putting any thought into what you're posting.
No, if you look at Alex Hormozy or Gary Vee and like these guys that are superstars in the social media world, all of their stuff is very value-based. And if you read Gary's book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, it is talking about before you ever try to sell anything, and he talks about this in real estate specifically, you need to put out 50 pieces of content where you have established yourself as the expert. You've given that value away before you ever ask them for anything in return. Alex is the exact same way. He's given away his courses on how he does what he does, and then says, hey, by the way, if you want this, his last one, he said it was like $1, like for the people that showed up. Like, it's nothing, and it's really just creating the value to create the brand that they've created so that they can ask for you to buy their book later on. Right? So, and it's tough. I'm sitting there, Berger was watching Gary Vee today.
I know, I saw it when I walked by the door. Yep.
And he was talking about pondering what he was going to say when he walked into this group of people. And I do that a lot with like our training and stuff. I don't want to say the same thing every time, but there is something to be said for, I almost equate it to like comedians. They use the same content like 90% of the time. Like, if you go to a comedian's tour, when they're there on that tour,
they'll have the same structure.
It's the same structure. The stories may vary just a little bit, but the message is always the same. The punchline is always the same.
Yep.
And so not only does that kind of work twofold for like trainings that we do, like you have to have that consistent message, but it also goes for agents putting out content in real estate. you may not have new news. You just need to rephrase how you're saying it. Tell people what the market's doing. If it's still great, tell them it's still great, but why? If it's still terrible or things are sitting on the market, tell them why. Not just, hey, market's kind of crazy, not great this week. Like, tell them, hey, homes sat on the market a little bit longer than we've had in the past couple of years. That's not atypical of this year or atypical of this time of year. But with the correct marketing strategy, pricing your home correctly, we can absolutely get your home sold.
Right, and people know the market's not fantastic right now. They already know that, so tell them information that they don't know already.
Yeah, I give them the actual stats. You have access to stats that nobody else has.
I'm surprised a lot of people don't. I don't see that as frequently as you would think.
John Clark and I talked about it. He's like, the second somebody takes the ABR stats and says, we have 55 new listings in this city at this price range, and the mean and the median is this, and the average price per square foot is this, like, you're gonna win. But nobody's doing it.
I think I want to blame it on laziness a little bit, because then they have to actually sit down and look up that information.
You don't.
Even though it doesn't take that long, but they still have to take that extra step. Are you saying you don't?
You don't. You could use RPR, which I talked about in Tech with Ty, and it creates the script based on the neighborhood that you want to talk about, which is insane.
True. Yeah.
I
really
recorded
is no
the one
excuse.
that we used as a demo, and I never published it, so I need to publish that. Now I need to do an updated one, but it's so easy to use.
Well, that brings a good point into my head. Like, I'm wondering if it's because people who are doing social media frequently on Facebook and whatever else, usually it's somebody else doing it. Like, for example, me. And I don't usually have access to that information, so they don't even bother with it. Because, like, I won't do a graphic like that because I don't have those stats to do a graphic with. So I'm wondering if that's why I don't really see it as frequently, because they don't have, like, they never relay that information to whoever's doing their marketing.
Right. No, I think that's 100% accurate to say, like, it's not necessarily a laziness, but I don't know how to get you the info that you need to publish what I really want to publish.
Right. And then it just keeps passing by and then nothing's done about it.
Yep. So, well, thank you guys so much for watching again. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.